All right, everyone. Welcome again to the Sloan Institute webinar titled Encouraging Your Faculty to Use Merlot to Enhance Their Classes. We are very fortunate to have our presenter, Kathy Swift, with us today. Kathy is the Director of Academic Partner Services at Merlot. She has published over 30 journal articles and numerous proceedings. Until 4 years ago, she was a professor of marketing at Georgia Southern University. She has worked part-time on Merlot since 1999 as editor of the business discipline, as well as manager of the editorial board. She has been with Merlot full-time since 2006. And what I'd like to do now is turn the microphone over to Kathy so she can start her presentation. The floor is all yours, Kathy.
Thank you very much, Darren. I appreciate that nice introduction. What we're going to do today is talk a little bit about the resources that Merlot has to offer that will really help people, either people involved in faculty development who are irresponsible for getting other faculty members to become technology efficient, I guess, and also perhaps to help those lone wolves out there who have discovered Merlot and want to help introduce it to people on their campuses. So let me just start first, since you all responded to the poll that Zarin had offered. If you are familiar with Merlot, can you just put a little green check mark in the column? You'll see it down at the bottom of the list of names. Okay, we have a lot of people who are familiar with Merlot. We still have some people who are not. So I'll take that into consideration. It looks like the majority of the people are, which is really wonderful. As we spread word about Merlot, people seem to find out a lot about it. What I'd like to talk to you about today is just kind of an introduction to Merlot. You may have heard of Merlot. You may actively use Merlot in your classes. But I look at Merlot as two different things. It really refers to two different things. One of them is an open collection of resources. And what we mean by open is that the resources are free for people to use. But Merlot is also a community. Merlot is a community of many people. I see a few actually from the Merlot community who I'm acquainted with. Irene Knock is attending the webinar, and Irene is our editor of the information technology, and Jim from Oklahoma has to be Jim Bidlack, who is the associate editor for biology, and then Rodrigo Zamorano is from Chile. I know his English is not very good, so he's trying to learn English as well as learn a little bit more about Merlot. But we are all part of that Merlot community, and I hope I haven't left anybody else out. But let's just briefly talk to you a little bit about what is unique about Merlot. Merlot has been around for quite a while. I think if you remember from Zarin's introduction, she mentioned that I have been working on Merlot since 1999, and Merlot has actually been in existence since 1997. It was a project through the Center for Distributed Learning that's out at Cal State, and basically some other systems looked at Merlot and said, we'd like to get involved in Merlot. One of those was Oklahoma, where Jim Bidlack is from, and they decided they wanted to work on the biology community. I was very fortunate at that time to be teaching in Georgia, and Georgia decided to get involved in the business community, and that's really how I became involved in Merlot. But Merlot has been around for a long time. It may be new to a lot of people, but we've really been an established community and collection for quite some time. Merlot is an open educational resource. Our materials are free for people to use. It's free to join Merlot. We encourage people to become members so that they can actually share materials and use resources and get to know some of the other people. It is free to join. I think the really unique thing about Merlot is that we do peer review of the learning and teaching materials. And when we do the peer review, it's done by people who are actually teaching within that discipline. So they become they're knowledgeable about the discipline, they've taught in the area, so they can do it in a very good review of that teaching material. And that's one thing that makes Merlot stand out from the others. You can also read the peer review on the Merlot site, which is a little bit different from a journal article, but you get to actually see what the reviewers have said about the material. We are not connected to any particular discipline. Merlot is across disciplines. We actually have 23 editorial boards that actively peer review within disciplines, but we also have other disciplines that are covered, and we'll be able to see some of those when we actually go to the Merlot page. Merlot is worldwide. We have 2 partners. One of those is INACAP in Chile, and the other is Maital, which is in Israel, as partners. But we also have members from all around the world who actively participate in Merlot. Merlot is also multi-language. Our partner in Israel is adding materials in Hebrew. The partnership in Chile is adding materials in Spanish, but we also are able to add materials and use materials in other languages, and you can also search for materials in an appropriate language. So that really gives a lot of character, I think, to Merlot. We have a variety of different materials. Right now we have 19 different material types, and we'll see those again when we go to the web page. We also pertain to all levels of education. There are some resources that are oriented towards K-12 and some to higher education. We started out being oriented towards higher education, and the peer reviews are done at the higher education level, and I mean anything from a technical school up to graduate schools. But we also have materials that are K-12 types of materials that people can search for. Right now we have over 30,000 teaching and learning materials. I just checked this morning, and there are now 30,400 teaching materials. So we do have a wide variety as well as a large quantity of teaching materials in Merlot. I mentioned Merlot is also a community. It is a wonderful worldwide community. There's no membership fee to join. You can use Merlot without being a member, and we'll be doing that in a few minutes. But we don't charge a membership fee. We never have. We just encourage people to use the resource. Again, the people in Merlot are across disciplines. I mentioned Irene is from information technology, and Jim is from biology. So we cover the people that are part of that community are from various disciplines, and we all work together on Merlot. We just finished our conference in San Jose in partnership with Sloan C, and all of our editorial boards met there, and our editors met, and it's just wonderful to be able to interact with people from other disciplines as well as your own. People, of course, are worldwide. I mentioned our international partners. Right now we have Maital and INACAP, and we hope to expand that. We have a lot of additional services, and some of those we'll be looking at, that are just much more than looking for materials, and that's where the faculty development aspect comes in. One of the really unique things about Merlot is that we are funded through our academic partners. All of our systems and campuses who are partners with Merlot provide partnership fees. Cal State University, excuse me, and that's who I work for, the Chancellor's Office, is our sustaining partner and really is responsible for the management team, but our other partners help out with their partnership fees, and that's really what keeps Merlot going. The nice thing about that is the fact that we don't rely on grants. If you look at some of the other repositories, I think the National Digital Library, National Science Digital Library, was funded by grants, and when the grants ended, they don't have any more funds to continue to grow. So the really good thing about Merlot is that through these partners we are able to sustain ourselves. Merlot consists of many volunteers. We have our academic partners who contribute, if you will, people as resources, but then we have a wide community of people who just want to get involved in peer reviewing materials, in communicating with people within their disciplines. And we really rely on that volunteer community. And another thing, and I mentioned this about no membership fee, but you can use Merlot without joining Merlot. We hope that you will join just to become part of the community. But we do have a lot of people who just go to Merlot, use the resources, and don't bother to become members. I have over 96,000 members, and again, I checked right before we started, and we have 96,242 members as of this morning. So it is a growing community also. Faculty can use materials in a variety of ways. First of all, and we're going to be looking at all of these when we go to the actual website, but faculty can find free online materials for their classes. And when I say online materials, these range from simple little animations that may show a process in biology that is just a simple animation that demonstrates that, all the way up to a free online class. A lot of people are putting books online too. We have a collection of over 2,000 free textbooks that can be used by people. So we really provide a lot of pieces for faculty to use that they can put into their classes. Interaction, the Merlot title, and actually I should have had a quiz at the very beginning, and I'll just tell you now, Merlot actually stands for Multimedia Educational Resource for Learning and Online Teaching. Even though it says online teaching, you can find materials that you can use in a face-to-face class also. But the importance of it is perhaps you want to engage your students in something, and you'll be in the situation that I was in. I'm not a technical person. When I was teaching, I couldn't create clever little animations. I wasn't creative enough to create materials. And what I could do, though, was go to Merlot and find materials that have already been created by other people. And they're actually very, very high-quality materials. So it really saves me time, and it provides me an opportunity to do things that I could not do myself. I think when we started out with Merlot, one of the things we said was, why reinvent the wheel? And I think that's the way we still feel. If there is something out there that is available, that the author is willing to share with others, let's just use that. And then I can spend more time on working with my students than having to find materials. So with Merlot, you can find free online materials. We have several ways to do so. One of those is to browse the collection. And our executive director, Jerry Hanley, had a good analogy for this. And if many of you remember the old library that we used to go to, you could go to the section on, let's say, history in the library and look through the books that are there. And that's really what we're doing with Browse. We go to our discipline or our sub-discipline and just see what is there. So that's probably the way most people look for materials on Merlot. You can also search. And by searching, you're looking for something specific. So if I want to put in a phrase about material that I'm looking at, I can use that. We also, for all of our 23 editorial boards, we have discipline portals. And we're going to be looking at some of those discipline portals. But these are portals, and I'll just pick on Jim again from Oklahoma. Jim is in the biology discipline, and the biology editorial board develops that portal. We initially were, I guess, as editors, wanted to find a way to bring people within our discipline to Merlot. So we started these discipline portals, and in those portals you can find a lot of information about how to use the materials for teaching your discipline, about who's involved in Merlot, and also, and again, we will be looking at this, other materials that you might need that are outside of Merlot, or other organizations that you might consider joining in your discipline. We also have something called the Pedagogy Portal, and this came about as a result of all the editors saying, you know, we don't want to cover basic teaching issues in our discipline portals. We need a place for people to find general teaching issues, and that's what we did. Are you still hearing me? Because Irene is saying the sound disappeared. Okay, you're still hearing me. Okay, the pedagogy, everybody's responding, thank you. The Pedagogy Portal, again, we'll look at, and this is a place where people can go to find things about general teaching issues that don't change from biology to English to history or anything. It's all things that we as faculty members deal with. Another way that faculty can use Merlot is to personalize it. And by personalizing it, one of the things is creating a member profile that provides information about you. And then you can also add additional information that really becomes your personal portfolio. And you can almost have a semi-vita on Merlot with the information that you add. We always encourage people to contribute materials to Merlot. You do have to be a member of Merlot to contribute materials. And the reason for that, obviously, is we don't want just anyone contributing materials. The materials in Merlot are for teaching and learning. And if somebody contributes a material that is not involved in education, we'll normally remove it from Merlot. But to contribute those materials so that we can track down the author, you do need to be a member of Merlot. It's easy to do. There's a little widget that you follow with just, I think, 6 different steps in it. You don't necessarily have to contribute your own materials. You can also find other materials and submit those to Merlot. When they're submitted, an email is sent to the author, so the author will know that you have submitted that person's materials. We also have RSS feeds, which are very simple to set up. I never really understood what an RSS feed was, and I'm sure somebody can tell us what the RSS stands for, but it's really a direct feed, and I do it to my email for any type of search that you do on Merlot. I normally have an thank you, Baden. Real simple syndication. It's a very simple way. You just click a few radio buttons and you can have any search added to your email, and then you can read it when you want to read it. For example, as the editor of the Business Editorial Board, I have 2 RSS searches. One of them is to send me the most recently added materials in the business collection, and then also to send me the most recently added members in the business area, so that I have that on a regular basis just to see what's happening and perhaps contacting some of these people. Another advantage or a way that you can personalize Merlot is to create a personal collection, and we'll be looking at some of those in a few minutes. The personal collections are almost a favorites page that you can easily find materials that you might have saved for one particular class, or for adjunct faculty, maybe one institution. You can save materials, and for another, you can save them in another personal collection. So that it's really a way that you make it your Merlot as opposed to just being a repository of materials. And I do want to mention, when I just said a repository of materials, one of the things that I always mention to people about Merlot is the fact that I view Merlot as a Google for educators. And if we went to Google and we searched for, let's say, DNA, we would have probably 1 million hits in DNA. They might many of them would not deal with education. They might be just some other information about trials and things like that. But when you come to Merlot and you search for DNA, you'll find materials that are used to educate in the area of DNA. So we're really a Google for educators is the way I view Merlot. Now, faculty can participate in other ways. One of those is to submit member comments. We do have the peer reviews for each of our materials, but many times you'll use a material or find a material and you think it's great, and we encourage you to make a member comment. And that's sort of like the kind that you find on other websites. I refer to it as an Amazon.com type of comment about what you thought about the material and whether you think you could use it in your class or how you reacted to it. You can also contribute learning exercises. If you find a material in Merlot and you develop kind of a class activity for students based on that material, you can contribute to that. Another major contribution is to become a peer reviewer. We have several guidelines for peer reviewers. The most important one, obviously, is that you be an instructor of higher education in your discipline. And of course, we make, for our faculty development discipline and our library, they're not actually instructors, but they're working in that field. Becoming a peer reviewer lets you actually critique a learning material. We do a GRAPE camp. GRAPE stands for Getting Reviewers Accustomed to the Process of Evaluation. And while I'm saying GRAPE, I might as well tell you that we do play off a lot with the name Merlot. Our newsletter is called The Grapevine. We talk about the Merlot collection as being the vineyard. So we're going to be touring the vineyard in a few minutes, and we just kind of play around with that. But I think becoming a peer reviewer helps you a lot to begin to understand how to evaluate teaching materials, because it took us a long time to figure out how to do that back in 1999 and 2000, trying to figure out how we would go about doing it. Another way that faculty can connect with people is searching for colleagues, and they can be people who are in your discipline perhaps. So you might want to search for somebody in your discipline or even in your sub-discipline. You may want to even search for other colleagues who are on Merlot within your institution and just see how many people at your institution are members of Merlot and who they are. You can also use Merlot Voices. Merlot Voices is a discussion forum. You may be familiar with the product Ning, and we have customized it for Merlot, and so we have a lot of different communities in Merlot Voices. We call it Merlot Voices. Some of our editorial boards have discussion areas. I know I have one for the Grape Camp so that the people participating in Grape Camp can communicate with each other. We also have what we call a virtual speakers bureau, and when you become a member of Merlot, you can indicate that you want to or are interested in being a virtual speaker. And what you can tell what your topics you would be comfortable speaking on are, and also any terms. And then other people can contact you. I know I used to have, because I was in the College of Business, I used to have some of my business courses listed, and I've been away from teaching that for about 5 years. So my Virtual Speakers Bureau is primarily on Merlot topics. But it's a willingness of experts in the field, and that's always wonderful if you're doing an online class, to bring in somebody from somewhere else. And if your experience is anything like mine, I can tell my students something, but if they hear it from somebody else, it seems to reinforce that, or even makes a better impression than when just the professor tells them. So participating in that Virtual Speakers Bureau is an option for you. We also basically inherited what used to be called the Carnegie Foundation KEEP Toolkit. And Carnegie Foundation ran that for a while and then just couldn't fund it any longer. So we have turned it into the Merlot Content Builder. And this is a great way to build either a learning material or an entire course or some type of presentation it creates a web page for you. And I've done a few of these, and again, I'm not a technical person. You don't need to know HTML. It's just an easy way to develop material and have it appear as a web page that is hosted on Merlot. Another way is to submit an article to the Journal of Online Learning and Teaching. We refer to it as JOLT. This has been in existence for about, I think, 5 years, and it's a wonderful place to find information about learning and online teaching, because that's the area that is the focus of it. So you can always search JOLT and find materials, or you can submit an article. If you have written an article, I really encourage you to submit it. The turnaround time is great. Great being wonderful, not long, but wonderful, because you do get a pretty rapid response time on this as compared to some journals where you sit and wait for about 9 months or so. Another way is to attend the Emerging Technologies Conference, and as I mentioned, we just got home last week from this, which was really an outstanding conference, and a number of people on here did attend that conference. So that's another way that you can get involved. So in addition to just being a place to go and find materials, Merlot has a lot more in the way of services to help faculty. So let me just pause right there. I've been trying to follow the chat room, and I just have been seeing comments from people. Have any questions come up, Zarin, that I can answer? It's wonderful having some Merlot people on with me, because they're able to provide some answers for people as we go. Okay, nothing? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take us live to Merlot. Hang on just a second here. Okay, here we have Merlot. Hopefully y'all are seeing this. This is the web page of Merlot, and I just want to show you, kind of take a tour of some of the things. Normally, if I'm just presenting Merlot for the first time, I concentrate on browsing and finding materials. But I want, because we're looking at helping faculty get involved, I want to show you a different side of Merlot. So one of the things that I'm just going to kind of point out some things that about Merlot. One of them is this little ticker going across the top, and we added this about a year ago, and it's really has updated information. Every Monday we think about what we want to put in the ticker. We just recently created a Facebook page. I'm pausing that right now. If you clicked on that, you go to our Facebook page. The latest issue of JOLT, you can go immediately to it. We're on Twitter. You can go immediately to that. And if you want to become a peer reviewer, you can go immediately to that page. So it really keeps you up to date on what's going on, and we try to change it every Monday and update it. And I just noticed something from yesterday webinar that we did that is up there, so I will be contacting our webmaster after this webinar to tell her to take that off the ticker now, because we do keep it updated. One of the things I think that a lot of people don't see on Merlot is About Us. And About Us has a lot of material on Merlot. So what I've done, I really want to explain as I go along. I'm at this About Us tab that's in burgundy, and I'm going to click on that. And there are a lot of topics down the side that you can explore to find out things about Merlot, who we are. There's the history. I'll just show you a list of our editorial boards. It explains a little bit about the editorial boards and what they do. And then we have a list of all of the members, and I'll just point out Jim Bidlack, who is on the call. Jim from Oklahoma is on here. And if you're interested in the discipline, you can contact the editor directly. So that's very easy to do. So you can explore a lot of these who we are topics. Even the Merlot staff is on there. We can also look at how to get involved. And I'm just going to select become a virtual speaker because we have, well, no, actually I'm going to select become a peer reviewer. That's very dear to my heart. So I'm going to select become a peer reviewer, and it explains all about the peer reviewers, the information about Grape Camp, when they're scheduled, and then there's a link to sign up for it. So you can easily find out about it. You can read what some of the people have said about Grape Camp. We have something on the Merlot collection, and I'm just going to select the peer review process here so that this is a complete explanation of the peer review process, what we do, and what our criteria are, so you can read that in depth if you want to. In the area of faculty development, we have a number of topics, but one of the ones that I will select are personal collections. And I mentioned these a little bit earlier. If you want to see an example of personal collections, you can go to some of these. And there are some situations here. College algebra. Suppose a professor teaches a college algebra class. You can click on an example of a personal collection. And this is something that Catherine Gadamke has created, and she has said that she's teaching Math 2105, and these are 5 Merlot resources that she has found and has put in a personal collection. So this is just, I'm showing you just as an example, and I'll go back to this previous page. Again, these are just examples that we've pulled out that you can look for a number of different topics. And we'll look at these in a little bit also. Merlot Awards, we just recently at the conference provided some awards, and what I want to demonstrate to you are our exemplary online materials, which we call our Classics Awards. This is just some information about the Classics Awards. Each year, each editorial board selects one material that they say, wow, this is just the cream of the crop that we looked at this past year. And so we'll go to the 2011 award winners, and these awards were just given last Tuesday. But you can see they're all in different disciplines. And for any of you who want to demonstrate Merlot to people, I really suggest you use these pages because these really show some fantastic types of materials in a lot of different disciplines. So if you have a group of faculty who are gathered and they're in different disciplines, we can go, for example, right to the biological animations and tutorials. And I'll explain these material details in just a minute, but it actually takes us to the material. And these are animated tutorials in general biology, and probably one of the few ones that I understand are mitosis. So there is information about mitosis that's narrated. There's a step through, so it's a series of discrete steps that you can take a student through. This is wonderful. You could use this in class and kind of lecture from it. But even better than that, if you've covered mitosis, you could send your students directly to this mitosis site and tell them to use that for review. If you're teaching an online class, you could provide the link that I've highlighted at the front of the page. And one thing I do want to point out, Merlot does not host these materials. Like Google, Merlot points to the materials and you go to the actual website where they're hosted. So right now we're on Sumanis Inc. website for these materials, these free materials. And you could, as I said, put this in your syllabus as a review for mitosis, or you could put it as a link in your online class and just help your students that way. So what I'm going to do right now is back up. We're going to go to the award winners, and you'll find we had 13 of the editorial boards nominated award winners, and again, for examination purposes, here's another wonderful one called The Vikings, the North Atlantic Saga, and this is actually put on by the Smithsonian. I'm going to skip the intro here. But for history, history sometimes tends to be a boring topic for people, and to be able to use a website with which they can interact and view the exhibit at the Smithsonian and talk about a lot of the Viking activities, it's just really a very, very valuable material. And I could talk to you about each of these because they're all absolutely wonderful. I do want to go back one page and also demonstrate that we've been giving these awards since 2002. So you could get basically 12 years of awards, and I can go to 2010, and we also have outstanding materials in 2010. So it's a wonderful way for you to be talking to other faculty in a variety of disciplines and have them see what all is available in Merlot and see some of the really high quality materials. So we talked about finding those from here. When we talk about partner support, that's really for our academic partners, so I'm not going to cover that. Merlot policies, everybody wonders about copyright, and Merlot, the issues of copyright are covered here, and I will also point out, if you look at the top of this page, that we do have a Creative Commons policy on all of our web pages and all of our materials. We encourage our authors, and we've had a major push to do this, to also provide Creative Commons licenses for their materials on their own websites. Obviously, we can't force them to do this, but we do highly recommend it. And if you're not familiar with Creative Commons, there is a link to their website there. One of the things, the other things that I can also mention to you, we have a variety of programs and projects. One of these is called Elixir, and the list is here of all the different projects, but I'm going to go to Merlot Elixir. And this is a website actually that won the Faculty Development Classics Award this year. It's a fantastic resource, and when I do the workshop later on, I'll be having people go here. But it was really created through a grant, and there are materials in here that you can use that are let's see, how can I say it? Are materials that include video and other resources that faculty have done. I clicked the wrong thing. I wanted to go to case stories. And they're videos of faculty talking and students talking. I'll just talk about this first one, the first day of class. And this is a very, very fascinating story, basically, of a chemistry professor who used to sit up in front of his class and lecture his students. And then he got involved in active learning and has found different ways to make that first day of class an exciting opportunity for students. And instead of just passing out the syllabus and saying, see you next week, the professor actually engages the students from day one of the class. So they address a lot of different issues that you see down here on the left side. Again, let me get back to the Merlot page. I tend to get so excited about different things that I forget where I'm going. They are digital stories, and I think Irene had said that. And sorry, I had to just do something about my other phone here. My apologies. They are digital stories. So now we can also go down here, and there's a media center, and we can find our newsletters. We actually have two newsletters. One is the Grapevine, which all members of Merlot receive, and the other is In the Vineyard, which is more of a community type of newsletter. But you can go to the current issue of the Grapevine, and we're due to put one out this fall, but you can find out information about Merlot. So that's basically a quick tour of About Us, and there's so much information in there. We try to keep it updated. We're not always successful on that, but I really encourage you to look for information about Merlot if you want to find out more about Merlot on these pages. And again, I'm going back to the main Merlot. I got there by this tab on the right, About Us. I do want to show you one other thing, and that's my profile. Since I'm logged in, it will, I'll go directly to my profile. You can create a profile and add as much information as you want. I stopped at positions. I did not put in publications and associations, but you're able to add as much information as you want there. And again, it's in order to create a community. If you are not a member of Merlot, you are not, the email address and some of the contact information is not provided. You have to be a member of Merlot in order to see some of this contact information. So one more time, I'm going to go back to the home page because I want to show you something. Right now, I'm logged in as Kathy Swift. I have a lot of permissions on the home page and other pages that get confusing for people. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to log out. And this would be anybody sitting at a public library, you know, going to Merlot, or sitting in their teaching center, going to Merlot. And I just want to demonstrate that you can do many of the things on Merlot without being a member. I don't want to discourage membership in Merlot, but I do want to show you that you can do a lot of things. I'm not going to go to the member directory because you can find all of the members of Merlot there, and that's all 96,242 of them. You can also click on the tab Learning. Whoops, I accidentally clicked on that, and I apologize for that. You can click on Learning Materials, and that will take you to all of the learning materials. But one of the things I want to explore next are the communities, because again, we're talking about the communities in Merlot. The discipline communities are all of our editorial boards, and these are the portals that I mentioned. We'll just go briefly to the business one. And here, this is really teaching in business, the people who are involved in business, learning materials. And one of the important things is beyond Merlot is looking at things such as what, I'll just say what business education journals are there. And we have it broken down into, let's say, management and some journals that have to do with education. So if, particularly for a new professor, if you're interested in publishing, you can certainly find some great examples here. So each of our disciplines has that compass. That discipline community. I want to go to Compass, and Compass is actually academic support services. And these are for anyone to use. We have a number of different Compass areas. Our faculty development editorial board and our library editorial boards are both involved in a cross-discipline, so they are in the academic support services. We have a portal on online courses, but here's a portal on pedagogy, and this is something that I do want to show you. Again, this came about as a demand really from the editors. And we looked at the teaching profession as having 5 steps. First of all, finding out about learners and learning. Whoops, I clicked on that. Finding out about course instructional design, finding out about teaching strategies, teaching challenges, and assessment. And what we did, I worked with our editor of faculty development to define those 5 areas, and also to find materials and identify additional subcategories in each of those materials. So let's first of all look at, let's say, critical thinking. I'll click on critical thinking, and it takes you to a page, and this is true for all of those terms on the previous page. And we have selected 5 materials in Merlot that have to do with critical thinking and that we think are very good materials that will help faculty understand critical thinking and how to engage their students in critical thinking. I'm going to select this one because I actually, when I was in Georgia, I attended this workshop by Harvey Brightman. And so I'm going to go there. And again, I'll be explaining all of this material to you in a few minutes, but let's go to that material right now. It's not a fancy web page, but he is very highly regarded, and I think he makes a lot of good comments about getting your students to think critically, not just critical thinking assignments, but even bringing it into your lecture or your classroom activities. So in this pedagogy portal, we have 5 materials that we've selected, and then we also have, this is something new that we just added 2 weeks ago, that in addition to these 5 resources, you can click here and find all of the materials that Merlot has on critical thinking. And in this case, there are 120 of them. So let me just get back to the pedagogy portal again. We've done this for all of these different terms, and I think this is very valuable for people who want to find out more about pedagogy and to help them even preparing their syllabus and any type of learning contract. We've got things on learning objectives, course planning, etc. One other community type I want to show you is our partner communities. And we'll just quickly visit here. Let's see. Merlot Chile, which is the partner community that Rodrigo belongs to. And we can visit them, and you'll see that they have the look of Merlot. It is in Spanish because obviously all of Chile speaks Spanish, but they have designed this portal from the Merlot page that their faculty members can look for materials in Spanish. Another community is our affordable learning solution, and this has been a really big thing. This is through Cal State, but looking for ways to make, since you may have read that tuition has been increased, I believe about 20% for students in California, how can we make it less expensive for them? And so there are a lot of free course materials in Merlot. There are links to free textbooks, lower cost publishing materials from publishers, and this is just kind of a community and a resource for people to use primarily in Cal State, but we've found a lot of interest from people in other areas. So I do want to show those of you who are not familiar with Merlot about browsing Merlot, but just let me stop again, and because I've been moving around, I haven't had as much of an opportunity to look at the chat room. So okay, Christine has a question, and let me back up and see what her question is. I guess she's had some responses. Christine, have your questions been answered? Or if you have a mic, can you ask the question that you're real concerned about again? Oh, it has been answered? Okay, wonderful. And undoubtedly by some of the other Merlotites that are on the call. I mentioned earlier that the way that a lot of people use Merlot is by browsing the collection. And we have our general topics here. And let's just say you have a professor in math, and so we can look at mathematics and statistics. And this list over here, we have two different collections, one in math and one in statistics. And we actually have 2 editorial boards who handle math and another that handles statistics. So I'm just going to click on mathematics as the first one. And so what we're doing now, we're drilling down into the mathematics area, and you see all of these subtopics along with that number in parentheses are the number of materials we have in that area. For instance, we have 295 in calculus. 187 in general and liberal arts math. So you can see there's a variety of materials in different areas. One thing we added last year also are the different material types. As I mentioned earlier, we have 19 different material types. Again, the numbers in parentheses indicate the number of materials in those areas. So if you're looking for a quiz or a test, there are 61. Probably at the level of just math, I would not click to one of these, but I would want to drill down within that list and look for something specific like general and liberal arts math to better define them. But I do want to show you that when the Merlot browse is used, the highest quality materials appear first. And the way we have of ranking those highest quality materials, first of all, are by our peer reviews, and then secondly, by the comments that people have made about them and also any personal collections. One of the materials, I'm not going to pick that first one, but the one that I thought was really interesting and may resonate with a lot of people are Fibonacci numbers. And I'm going to click on that. And what this does when I click on that material from the hit list is that I get a material detail. And we have a material detail on every single one of the 30,000 plus materials we have in Merlot. And this just provides you a quick look at the material and a little description of it. And there are some issues like it's for high school, college, general education. It is in English, and you will probably need QuickTime for animations. This also won a Classics Award from our math editorial board. And the reason why this resonates with me is when the Da Vinci Code came out, they mentioned Fibonacci numbers in the Da Vinci Code, and I knew what they were because otherwise I probably would have had to look it up. But what I want to show you is over here on the right side. Whoops, not that. Over here on the right side, we have a peer review that is a 5-star peer review. So even before going to look at this material, the Fibonacci numbers, and this is actually, if you look down at the author, it's from somebody over in the UK. We're going to look at the peer review. So I can click on that peer review, and this material got 5 stars. Our stars run from 1 to 5 in 0.25 increments. And this material, it's been a while since it has been peer reviewed. It was back in 2001. But all of our peer reviews look the same. If it's in math or health sciences or English, they all look the same. We have just a general overview. We have the learning goals, what you need prior to using it in the prerequisite knowledge, any technical requirements. So you can read, and this is a description by the editorial board. The submitter will provide a description, but many times the submitter does not provide a very complete description. And so the editorial board will provide a complete description here. And then we look at these 3, if you look at the 3 starred items in the upper right, the content quality, effectiveness as a teaching and learning tool, and ease of use. We look at these 3 criteria, and each editorial board evaluates these criteria. You can read what they say, what are the good things about it, and obviously they had absolutely no concerns on there. Potential effectiveness as a teaching tool, you can read what they say. They did have a slight concern on these about some book vendor links being there. And the ease of use, again, you can read what they say. And this really helps you in deciding, is this something that I want to use in my class without even going to it. These peer reviews are done by at least 2 individual instructors who do not work together. It's a blind peer review between the 2 of them. And then the editor who takes the 2 of those and puts them into a composite review, and that's what appears on the Merlot homepage. So I'm just going to go back to this material detail again. You can also read comments, and these are made by Merlot members. And I looked at this previously and found out that all of the comments are by students. A lot of people want to see one by faculty members, but this particular one, I have a feeling maybe a professor had this as an assignment that the students had to go and comment on it. But this is really nice, I think, because here's a student, and this student used it in February 2010, so this is 10 years after the peer review. You can read what the student says and see it from the student's perspective. So if I read a few student comments and they all tend to say, wow, I really learned a lot from this site, that intrigues my interest even more. So now I'm going to go back to the Fibonacci numbers. And one other thing, that there are also learning exercises, and these are exercises that somebody has created specifically for this material, and we don't happen to have any. But the personal collections, there are 312 personal collections, and what that really means is that 312 people said, wow, I like this, I want to come back to it, or I want to use it in my class. So we can click on these personal collections, and we can see all the people who have personal collections. And a lot of these say mathematics classics, and we just added something to our personal collections in that people can copy our personal collections. And I made, you can see my name down here. I made this as a resource actually for the faculty development workshop for Sloan. And I've got already 3 people who have copied this collection and made it their own. So I really want to select somebody who's not just copying my collection. So I'm going to select Arun Verma, I believe is his name, yes. And he has a liberal arts math class, and he selected Fibonacci numbers as well as 500 other materials. 500, I'm sorry, as well as 5 other materials. And so you may say, wow, he selected this one. Let me check out the other 5 that he's using for liberal arts math. Now, I can't do this right now because I'm not signed in as a member, but if I looked at these resources and said, I want to keep these for my liberal arts math class, I can copy this personal collection myself. I'm not going to do that. So now I'm going back to the material detail page. And if you notice that we have not yet looked at this material, one other thing some of you may not be familiar with, but some of you are, is the QR code here. This is something now with the apps that are available. You can use this QR code and go directly to the Fibonacci numbers resource using either an iPad or iPhone or whatever type of application you use. That's something that we just recently added. But let's look at Go to Material now, and you'll notice now that and how quickly it went. I did not have this pulled up. This is now over in the UK, and we're looking at this material from, I believe it's Surrey University, and explains exactly what Fibonacci numbers are. And they're actually, I can tell you because I do remember this, that they're formed by adding the last 2 digits. So when you add 0 and 1, you get 1. When you add 1 and 1, you get 2. And it's just a sequence that people have identified in nature. There's a podcast here that students can listen to. They talk about the occurrences in nature. I liked the ones on petals on flowers, that they're actually formed they appear as by Fibonacci numbers. So they start with 3 petals, 4 petals, 5 petals. It's really fascinating when you go to this material. And I'm not a mathematician, but this was something that I really liked, and I think students would really appreciate it too. So we found this by browsing math. I'm going to show you one other thing. Okay, and Jim's saying that botanists follow this too, because it obviously in flat petals on flowers are formed according to the Fibonacci numbers, and so they follow it too. I'm just going to pick something that is different from math, and I'm going to search up here in the box now for grammar. And let's see what Merlot has available on Grammar. And if you recall, when we browsed the material, the highest rated materials came to the top. When we search for them, the ones that have the most relevance, and you'll see this sort box. I'm going to open this box up. I could sort these by the overall rating or by the date it was added or anything else, but most of the time when you're looking for something specific, you want it to sort by relevance. And so one of the first ones that comes up is this guide. I went to the peer review accidentally, but it's good. Let me just go back one page and go to the material detail of this guide to grammar and writing. It got the Merlot Classics Award last year. We can read about it, and we see that it has a 5-star peer review. We can go to this peer review, and you can see that it's formed the same way, doesn't have quite as much information on it, and a lot of times that is because it was written prior to us adding some of these fields in the peer review. But they also evaluate. They gave it 5 stars. They evaluate the strengths, what's really good about it, and the concerns about it. So you can see the peer reviews that way. And again, I think this is the peer reviews are what really are the strength of Merlot, is having these materials rated, so you have a confidence when you see that something is a 5-star, you can use that in your class. I'm going to go to the comments here on English, and this is not all students, which is good. So here I'm going down to the bottom because there's a way of looking at comments, the ratings, and the used in the classroom. This particular faculty member has indicated that she has used it in the classroom. And so I'd like to see what she has said about it. So she's not just gone to the site and looked at it, but she actually used it in the classroom. And you can see what she read. This is for her basic writing class at the university freshman level, and you can see what she read about it. That, to me, is valuable information. It's something that another faculty member who teaches, if I'm teaching basic writing, this faculty member has taught basic writing, and she can explain, she has used it and has used it in her classroom. And again, I find all this out without even going to grammar and writing. Okay, big pause now. I want to just stop and see if there are any questions or any other question. Okay, and Cindy is asking, are QR download available for everything? I believe they are, everything that we could manage to do it with. And this is something new. I just discovered this last week. So, and I don't use an iPad or an iPhone, so I guess what we can do is just, I'm clicking on learning materials, and when I click on learning materials, DNA from the beginning is always tops to the top, but because it's a very high quality material, and it has the QR code. So I'm going to take a chance and say for almost everything in Merlot, it will have the QR code on it. And if it didn't, that means we were not able to find it. So let me just pause now for any other questions. I know that sometimes I'm so familiar with the collection of Merlot that I maybe go through things too rapidly for people. Well, great. I'm glad to hear that. I tried to show you a lot of the information that we will be looking at in the faculty development workshop that I'm doing for Merlot. But I think that you can also find so many more materials, and I'd seen a question earlier about how to get people involved. I'll let you in on a really fun secret, I guess, that one of the things when I was out traveling a lot more and doing workshops at local professional associations and even at my university, because of the name Merlot, it really catches people's attention, and you get a lot of jokes about drinking wine and everything. And one of the things that I found was I would go out and buy a bottle of cheap Merlot and have a drawing, and people would just pass in their names. You could even have them join Merlot or whatever to be eligible for getting the bottle of wine. Now you have to be very careful that a lot of college campuses will not allow alcohol. You don't want to get in trouble with it, but that's a clever way of getting people involved and getting people's interest. Yeah, Irene's saying she's working at a hospital, and obviously you can't do that. But if you're out at a professional association, I think that's a way. One of the things, I guess another hint if you're trying to get faculty involved, is asking them for their discipline. If I were just teaching a general Merlot workshop, I would have asked people what their disciplines are, and I would have noted that. And then if somebody, for example, were in health sciences, I would go to science and technology, and we have our major categories here. I go to health sciences. There are 1,900 materials in health sciences. Nursing has 295. And when you're browsing, keep in mind that the top quality material comes to the top. And so here we have the auscultation assistant. I don't think the sound picks up on this, but it's a wonderful way for, we'll just go to it, and I know nothing about listening to people's hearts. And that's what auscultation is listening to heartbeats. And they've got sound effects on here for all of these situations. So if you were teaching nursing, or if you were in a library where you had a speaker, you could click on early aortic stenosis, and the students could listen to what that sounds like. And somebody commented to me, it's so much better than me standing up in my class, in front of my class, going bump, 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 bump. I actually get to go to. It messed up my audio. Okay, let me get out of there. Okay, I'm back. I hope somebody said it messed up my audio, and that's probably because when it probably started the audio. So anyhow, as I was saying, it's better than somebody standing up in the front of the class trying to make sounds for what that condition would be. So if you are presenting, I highly recommend that. You can also go to the peer review from here. You can look at the comments. 227 people have said, I really like this material, and probably a lot of it had done it because of suggestions, or they went to something, but we see a lot of people here. When you look at these personal collections, some people don't do them correctly when they only have one material in it. So some of the others will have Nursing 315, for example, and I think I used this in something because I have a personal collection like that. So here is Mary Abadi, who has 8 materials that she's using for her pediatrics course, and one of those is the auscultation assistant. So looking at personal collections is also very helpful, and encouraging people to make personal collections on materials that they have found is a great idea for a workshop. So as I said, if you're looking for ideas about how to engage faculty, in my opinion, you just do a browse in different things. So since we looked at nursing, I might select something else, such as something in the humanities, and maybe I'd pick world languages in the humanities. And we have 2,298 materials in that. You'll find more materials in the subjects for which we have editorial boards. But you could demonstrate to people perhaps Italian. And we have peer-reviewed materials in Italian. Some of these are for a variety of languages, so they're cross-listed in Italian as well as Spanish, etc. So if you're doing something where you're bringing faculty together, to me, browsing the collection works extremely well. And you see we have a lot of different topics. We even have a couple topics in workforce development. They're our 2 editorial boards, or technical allied health and fire safety even. But getting somebody in the audience to tell you what they're teaching, and then just browsing through their collection and asking them, how would you use this in a class, or how would you envision using this in a class? And getting that type of discussion going on, and then finding out some other discipline and getting that same type of interaction. And I think when people see, wow, this is great, the first question is, how much does it cost? And you tell them it's free. In this era of open educational resources, people, and particularly faculty, are very interested in finding something. And in finding something, faculty are hard, it's difficult to convince people to get with using technology. But I think if you show them little things and little pieces, that maybe this semester you put 2 things into your course that you found on Merlot, and they gradually see student reactions to it, it really helps. But customizing it for the people in your audience works best. And then I would ask somebody else from a different discipline, what can we search on for you? And if they tell me, let's see, what can I think of? I'm just going to say budgets. I'm taking a chance on this because I really don't know what we have in budgets. And you can click on budgets and search for materials in budgets, and we have a few people, not all of them are peer reviewed, but there are certainly some materials. Managing Budgets is a free online textbook. Doing that a few times really helps them learn how to use Merlot, particularly when you're getting feedback from the audience, rather than doing what I've done today and just demonstrating things. When you have smaller groups and you've got the direct interaction, I think you can get conversations going on. Now, I'll stop right there and open